Wednesday evening is here. I am not sitting out back. I do not have a cigar in my hand. I'm worried that my wife would beat me senseless with a chancla if I lit up a cigar in this room right here. So, we're back just like old times. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very blessed to have with us an absolute expert in the field of not only college football, but certainly in the field of Alabama. Somebody who I hold him in as high of regards as anybody that covers this sport, and there's a reason why anytime I get the opportunity, I get him here on this panel. Clint, how are you today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Appreciate the introduction. Good to join you guys. There's a lot going on with college football right now. I know it's the off season, but transfer portal opens up. You got, we've got craziness going on. We'll put it that way.
Always craziness. And where would I be without two guys that help me navigate this craziness all the time? Coach Sean, how are you, man?
Blessed and highly favored, man. Really, really excited and happy to be here with you guys, man. Got the broski Clint here himself. Hey, man, me and Brinsky really, really excited to do that. Let's get to it.
And Brinsky, how are you, my man?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm enjoying all this chaos in college football with other people's teams for once.
For once, facts.
And listen, I think there's no better place for us to kick off than the craziness, because what a paradoxical year it's been. 12 months ago, over 12 months now, it's flying. Alabama was the team that had the alarms just blaring, guys exiting as Nick Saban retires. Figuring out who your head coach was, that was the longest short search I've ever seen in my life, probably because it was my favorite team. And it felt like it was 3 weeks. Looking back on it, you're like, man, they did a great job finding a guy like that and then ironing out the details. But Brinsky, you hit the nail on the head. Alabama fans right now are sitting back and listen, I fully expect the portal giveth, the portal taketh. I'm never going to sit there and say, hey, we're not going to lose anybody because we're just in college football in 2025. But there has been nothing but craziness. Now, Clint, I want to pass this to you first and foremost. Before I actually give you this question, you've been covering a lot of this craziness. And as people are trickling in here, where can they find you covering this craziness on a day-to-day basis and giving all the great updates that they need to hear about the Alabama Crimson Tide?
For the Alabama updates, Cover Crimson YouTube channel is where we do a daily show, Mick Gillespie and myself, and then we got Jake Coker. Jimmy Stein's been doing some stuff with us lately. We got a great group over there, but then also covercrimson.com. That's where I share a lot of my written thoughts. If it's not dealing with Alabama, granted, I also share a lot of Alabama stuff, but if you want to hear my take or my attempts at trolls as far as other fan bases and picking at their teams and stuff, Twitter at Clint R. Lamb. That's kind of probably the easiest way to reach me, but also I would highly recommend the YouTube channel and the website as well.
Love it, man. Love it. It is an absolute treat to watch your content, read your content, and have you on this panel. But I do want to start with you. This Nico situation. Is this one of those things where simultaneously you're surprised because of the name, but not surprised because it's college football 2025? And for those of you in the chat that have followed recruiting, you know how high I am and was on Nico. But it was kind of always understood that this was a bidding war since high school. How surprised should we be about this whole situation, Clint?
How surprised should we be that the guy, the kid, when I say kid, maybe, it's the people around him who was chasing a bag in high school continued to try to chase a bag on the college level, and I can't really blame the kids for wanting to do that to an extent. We all know how we got here. I don't even think I have to acknowledge the NCAA and their role in all of this. But I will say that it's, I think this is probably a learning experience for other athletes. You can clearly tell as far as the narratives and stuff, the difference in representation on the college level with NIL and the NFL level. I just feel like when there's a story to kind of spin to paint your, I guess you would call it, client in the best light possible, the people who are doing it on the NFL level are on a completely different playing field than pretty much everybody that I've seen who are doing it on the college level. Like who's ever in Nico's ear, whether that be his dad, whether that be an agent, whoever. I just feel like they have not given him sound advice. I feel like it's now put him in a position where I'm sure he shares his, some of this responsibility, but it's like you've kind of created something right now where a majority of people are pulling against your son, like, or pulling against your client. That's never your job to put your son in, or if it could be football or anything else. I just feel like it's been very poorly handled, and I feel like the athlete is the one paying for it.
You said something, Brinsky, I'm about to pass it to you, but you said something I really do want to hone in on because Clint, I've told you this in the past, or I believe I have. I got my background in college for any sort of public speaking. I did debate in high school, but I did moot court. And one of the things I learned in moot court is, okay, we're given maybe 10 Supreme Court cases that are real to argue this hypothetical case that involves real constitutional issues. And then I can cite cases cited within the Supreme Court cases. So I'm just going to give you an arbitrary number. Let's pretend it's 30. I have 30 Supreme Court cases at my disposal, but everybody else has those same 30 cases. So I learned very quickly, information is amazing. You want to have the information, but being able to create a story that's compelling, that is able to capture somebody, being able to advocate is more than just about having the facts. You said something right there that these people in Nico's corner, and Lance Hunter, you put this in the comments, and I think you nailed it, right? I can't blame Nico. If I was Nico and people were like, hey, we can get you $6 million as opposed to $2 million, I'd probably be like, hell yeah, man, get me $6 million as opposed to $2 million. Why wouldn't I? Because I hired you to keep my interests in mind. And Clint, the point you made that was so great to me is you have someone you've hired to advocate for you, to be able to create this story, to be able to create this great narrative. And only in the past day or so are we hearing the narrative of, oh, it's not about the money, it's about the system. You failed. Whoever it is, you have failed. Your client, you have failed the situation. Now, I'm hoping all the best for Nico. I think he's an incredibly talented quarterback that's very green. I said this whenever he was coming out of high school. I thought that he was such an exciting prospect, but I also thought he was a guy that would benefit from sitting for a year or two and just learning, because I think sky's the limit on his talent. But I love that point by you, man, because it seems like whoever his agent is, you tried to advocate and the reverse of that happened. You don't always have to have the best facts. If you can tell the best story and the court of public opinion, do not discount the court of public opinion. Brinsky, tell me your thoughts, because you've been Brinsky Damas all over this situation.
Man, like I said, man, it's from everything that I've been seeing and all the reports that have been being reported, it just seems like he's taking bad advice from his father, and his father is messing up his career from everything that I've been reading. Especially if you're saying it's not about the money, when clearly it is about the money, and you saying it's the offensive system, which clearly the system that got Hendon Hooker drafted, and I forgot
Milton.
my man's name.
Milton.
Oh, Joe Milton drafted too. So you literally go from the 10th best offense in the country down to the 90th best offense in the country. I don't think that's the system. I think that's you. So you can't really use the system as an excuse of why you transferring, because clearly Josh Heupel's system has proven that quarterbacks shine in his system. It's definitely about money, and I don't like how they're going about it, especially how they burning bridges with all these universities. And you see Tulane pulling out. Everybody thought he was going to UNC, then they pull out. I forgot what other place pull out, and then it really came down to UCLA, because I didn't see him going anywhere else, because I felt like if UCLA pulled out, you might well go ahead and apply for Blue Mountain State, my brother, because I just don't see you going anywhere else.
Yeah, and I love the Blue Mountain State. Clint, I don't know if I got to tell you this. My dad knew Ed Marinero in college, and Ed Marinero is the coach. That's Marty
Yep,
Daniels
Marty
in Blue Mountain
Daniels.
State. So
That's amazing.
I was messaging Ed Marinero back and forth on Twitter, and I was like, you knew my father, sir. And he saw the last name, and he was like, was your father Joe Hayes? Jody? I said, yes, sir. And he remembered some of those stories.
Very cool.
Coach Sean, I don't think we're going to have to see Nico go to Blue Mountain State. Although, if you do remember those teams, God forbid he go to Blue Mountain State and find his stride. College football's done for if he goes to Blue Mountain State and finds his stride. Marty Daniels and them goats are going to run over everybody. One of the things that his family talked about, allegedly, you can see the legal mind in me coming out right now, allegedly, this article was that, hey, we want to go somewhere that's going to focus on the offensive line, that's going to focus on getting wide receivers, because he's had these 2 concussions. He had a cracked helmet this past year. Now, one, I think, to put this politely, he plays that style, right? Like Bryce Young, where they're creators. They're going to bail out the pocket. Maybe they should throw the ball away. That's not what they do. They're looking to create. I'm certainly not putting him on Bryce's level, but you get what I'm saying. Coach Sean, what did you think when you heard this? Because Tennessee just got Mike Matthews in 2024, who was a quasi 5-star, depending on where you looked. Then we go to the class 2025, and they get David Sanders, who, depending on where you look, was a top 1 or 2 offensive lineman in the nation. So, to Clint's point, what's your thoughts here, and how are they going so wrong on the damage control, where they're giving these statements, and it's like, brother, you didn't even hit up On3 or 24/7 Sports to look at the recruiting classes to disprove what you're saying?
I mean, for me, I think it's a mess. I really do. It's really, really difficult in general to keep these West Coast kids. I don't know if people really understand. A lot of these West Coast kids really have to adapt to this part of the country. I got a lot of friends from the West Coast that it was a transition for them. It was a transition for them coming down south. I'm talking about from the small things like food and culture and dress. And it's a big transition for some of these kids, man. And in Nico's situation, I just think, as far as the stuff that came out about him missing practice and things like that, at that point, you're kind of taking the onus into the kid, right? Because that's what the fans are going to remember. This kid missed practice. He didn't come to practice, this, that, and the third. At that point, you're setting yourself up to be ridiculed no matter what you do. You got to keep it football, man. You got to try through all the madness to keep it football. It's very, very difficult, man, when you see what Tennessee did as far as litigation coming out of high school, what they had to do to get the kid the monetary reward that they gave him, the hurdles that they had to jump through with the NCAA and all of that, only to get to this point. So it's a mess, if you ask me. I really believe, we said last night in the text messages, and we all in our group text, that I think the powers that be, the media, and everybody that's against the portal is going to use this for their mascot, if you will, of what not to do, of how not to handle it, right? I really don't know in what stage and what manner this could have been handled better, because at the end of the day, if this kid is lobbying for more money, and like Clint said, like you said, you can't really blame the kid. All of us would do it if we could, right? I just think his handlers, didn't really handle it well. I don't know, man. It's a very, very tough situation without all the facts. It's hard not to really harbor on the bottom line, if you will. The bottom line is the kid's not at Tennessee anymore. What's the reason? They say it's not about the money, and I understand that, right? But at the end of the day, man, I think the West Coast fits him better. UCLA is probably going to fit him better. I'm not sure if the talent is going to be there right now that Tennessee has for UCLA. I'm not even sure if the monetary reward will be there that he's looking for. But all in all, at the end of the day, man, I think everybody's going to use this and what not to do, how not to handle it. Even if it's another kid that may try to do this. You can look at the past really quickly at some kids who may not have did what Nico did, but situations were handled still wrong. Look at the Rashada kid and all the schools this kid's been at, and the litigation that they're trying to do behind it. And It's a mess. It's a mess, man. And I really think the only way this stuff gets cleared up and we see the trees through the forest, if you will, or however the saying goes, is you got to have some type of guardrails. You got to have some type of structure with this kind of thing, man. You have to have anytime. I mean, Coach Saban said it best. Everybody hated on him and talked bad about him. And Coach Saban was the one who really saw this stuff coming. You got to, when you're dealing with money and agents and things of this nature in college football, bottom line is you got to have structure and guardrails to kind of walk these rules in place, if you will.
Wouldn't be a live show if you were talking while muted, right? That's how you know we're back, baby.
Shout out to Jimmy and Luke. Look, shout out to Jimmy and Luke for that. I see those guys do that all the time.
We're back. Anyways, Clint, what's funny about this is when you came on the first time, I don't know if you remember, the first question I asked you was like, how has it been covering a sport that's evolving at like light speed? Like from when you first started covering it, even from when I hopped on a microphone and just started talking about college football. I can't say I cover it. I give my opinion on college football. That was during COVID. And the game is unrecognizable from what it was even then. It's just funny to me how we've came this far. And guys, the thing that stands out to me is what other, because let's be honest, college football, it's not amateur. At this point, it's not. What other league allows their players to leave at the drop of a dime to speak to opposing teams? And I understand that whenever you say this, you always get the arguments, oh, well, the coaches can do it. Yeah, to a point, right? Like, there should be protections against what coaches can and can't do, sure. But just because someone can do something doesn't mean we need to light the house on fire. You know what I mean? Just because your best friend from 5 years ago still has the key to your home and y'all aren't on speaking terms, you don't light the house on fire. You fix the issue. Go and get a new damn lock. That's like, we cannot light the sport on fire. And I'm fascinated about these court cases coming down to see what happens. Guys, I want to shift, right? Staying on the topic of just how wild college football is. Clint, talk to us about the transfer portal. Because when we kick this off, Bama fans are sitting here wondering what moves Bama's going to make.
That's a great question. I think the problem is like Alabama fans, any fan base, they view the transfer portal as an opportunity to upgrade your roster. And that's kind of what it is there for. But upgrading your roster isn't always upgrading your starting groups, right? It's not always going out there and paying the most money and getting the best players like the Cal tight end. That guy's a dude. I mean, whoever ends up paying him, they're going to get a heck of a player. That's not really what Alabama's looking for, though. I'm not saying that if Jahmyr Gibbs comes along, a couple of years ago, I don't think Alabama was necessarily looking for another running back. I think they did want a little bit more experience if they could get it, but it was going to take a special talent for them to kind of what I would call rock the boat as far as the guys who are currently in that room. And so they went out and got him. Right now, it's like, okay, tight end. That's a position where I think Alabama could very well add another body. Are they looking to go out there and sign one of the top players at that position and pay him the most money? No, I do not think that's their goal. Offensive line, same thing. It's like they believe in their two starters, and they think Wilkin Formby and Caden Proctor are going to be the two starters. And if that's what you believe, I mean, how do you entice some of the top guys to come and be a backup? Even if they're coming from a lower level of football, they were kind of the guy for their offensive line on a lower level. They want an opportunity to, at the very least, compete for a starting job. That's not going to happen with Caden Proctor. And from everything that I've been told, it's not really going to happen with Wilkin Formby either. They like how he's developing. They think he's going to be a good player for him. So, if they were to bring in a quality tackle to quote unquote compete for that job, and Wilkin Formby decided I'd rather go somewhere else. Now you've downgraded at that position. You've gotten worse. So I think from a number standpoint, they would like another tackle. They would like another tight end. Definitely think they need a punter. The freshman that they brought in, he was injured all spring. Have no idea what you're going to get out of him. But as far as the walk-ons and the other players that they have there, I don't think the coaching staff was pleased with what they got. So I could see them going after a guy who could actually compete for the starting punter job, or maybe just gets it outright. But maybe interior defensive line. I do like how they use Kelby Collins. I think he can be that fifth interior defensive lineman, fourth bandit, where he's kind of playing both and providing depth and rotation at both. But it's like I really think you need at least five. And I think, if Kelby Collins is playing quite a few snaps on the inside, you've got five. But, what happens if he goes down? I don't think Steve Mmoa is ready. You've got the other freshman, London Simmons. You got Fonga. I don't know how they feel about really any of those guys, but are they? I mean, I don't think any of them are viewed as like they would be ready to step up and become a part of the rotation. So maybe if the right guy presents himself at that position, maybe you would do that. But really, I mean, right now, I would say tight end and offensive tackle outside of, as far as offense or defense, punter's probably the number one. I'd probably say that's the two biggest targets, but it's not going to be big and flashy guys. And I think fans need to understand that. It's going to be guys who can come in, kind of elevate the bottom of your depth chart, because I think sometimes fans take for granted what that does. That's your scout team right there. Those are the ones that are going against your starting defense if it's a tight end or an offensive tackle every day in practice. The better that unit is, I think one of the things that made Alabama's success so great under Nick Saban was the bottom of the depth chart. I mean, you had guys who would be starting for other programs, and they were going against them every day in practice. And so that's where you built championship caliber. They don't call it championship caliber starting lineups. It's championship caliber rosters. And so I think, while it might not be as flashy or glamorous as maybe a headliner, I think they could add some important pieces. But I also want to tell people, I think there's kind of, you hate to say this, but there's kind of a game probably being played. Like, how much pursuit will there be during this 10-day window? The 20-day window back in the winter, it's like that's a long time to wait. These guys are going to be getting gobbled up, going to get landing spots. But it's very possible that they wait until the portal window closes, and then they start going to get some guys to make sure they can maintain who's already on the roster. They don't rock the boat too much that way. So it's, there's a lot of different ways they can approach it.
I love that last point about the gamesmanship of the timing of what you do, because I think that is not appreciated enough. And also, Clint, one of the things, Coach Sean, as I pass it to you, how many times, Coach Sean, have we said the transfer portal at its best is a Band-Aid?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's why I'm fascinated by what Coach Prime has been able to do over there at Colorado, because that's really like a live action case study, right? Like, you're watching a new theory in action. Like, how viable is the transfer portal at building a roster? I subscribe, Clint, to the notion that the transfer portal is best used as a Band-Aid. Use it sparingly, whether that's to get a Jahmyr Gibbs or whether that's to get a guy that you're like, hey, maybe not now, but we really think that in the next year, 2 years, you'll be a player. And right now, you can help the guy that is the guy become a better player. Coach Sean, talk to me about what you think Alabama is going to do in the transfer portal. What would you like to see them do? And yeah, just take it from there.
For me, man, it's not even really about a player to me. It's about fit to me. I want guys that understand that Grubb loved this guy when they was at Washington. I can't tell you when I used to watch tape on these guys, how many inside hitches these guys run, seams these guys run. These guys throw a lot of screens to the wide receiver, not necessarily to the running back. There's a few to the running back, but most of their screens went to wide receiver screens, heavy screens, man. I mean, tunnels, jailbreaks, a lot of different screens to get these wide receivers in space. I want guys that fit that, guys that can come in and pick right up and understand that. I'd love to see us go out and get some tight ends, one or two, maybe. Blocking tight ends, guys that can catch the ball, depending on when most of the tight ends will be back that's injured, serious injuries, minor injuries. I don't really know the case, but I want guys to fit. I want guys that understand route tendencies, hitches, flats, crossers. You know, I want guys that fit what Grubb like to do. If we can just get fit guys, for me, that's a plus. It's like Clint said, I don't have to have these great transfer portal superstars from other teams. I just want guys that fit the system. Like he said, to bolster the depth chart. If you can bolster your depth chart, that's going to help your team. It's going to help your team get better. Iron sharpens iron, right? So for me, it's not really about a player. It's more about fit. Guys that fit what Coach Grubb like to do. The defensive side of the ball, man, to me, man, it's a struggle for me to really say where I would like to see somebody on that side of the ball, man. I really feel confident. I really feel good with the kids we have on defense. I think these kids, even the younger guys, I think they'll develop throughout the season. You can never have too many defensive linemen. You know, I love defensive linemen. Don't matter how many you have, I'm always happy. I love our running back position. You know, I'm biased to that position. So if we can just get some guys that fit what these coaches have, I really do believe Alabama's gonna have a special year this year.
And I want to add real quick. I think the coaching staff has earned our trust on that.
Yes.
I mean, how many guys? I mean, you know, when Josh Cuevas came over, he was their fourth leading tight end as far as snaps played. He had come from Cal Poly. Like, I mean, everybody's like, I mean, what is this? And then he ends up being Alabama's third tight end. Now we're expecting him to be a massive part of the offense. That was the coaching staff. Parker Brailsford lived up to expectations. You know, Keon Sabb, Deshaun Jones, he comes in post-spring, ends up being a huge contributor, helped out the depth there. We're talking about Isaiah Horton being a massive piece this year. We're talking about, you know, Cam Calhoun really helping. He's doing some really good things, filling out the depth chart. So it's like their evaluations, none of them have probably been like, because Damani Jackson, if I'm not mistaken, he was already on the roster when Saban was there.
Yeah.
LT Overton was already not on the roster, but had already committed. They were coming. So they probably really don't get credit for those guys as far as the evaluation side of it. But the ones that they have done up to this point, they've got a really strong hit rate. So, and I wouldn't say that any of them have been super popular when they were signed. Isaiah Horton was a guy that fans certainly liked. I mean, I think he would probably be the biggest one, Keon Sabb, you know, when he was brought in. But they do a pretty good job with these evaluations. So while it might not be flash, I think they can get impact.
I love that because Clint, you and I were talking on Twitter the other day. You had a tweet talking about what Shepard has done in evaluations, right? Talking about Isaiah Horton. Then you talk about Alotsier Brooks. You talk about what he's been able to get and how impressed you were. I think I had quote tweeted it and was like, hey, Clint hits the nail on the head per usual. But man, this whole staff and their evaluations to me have just been phenomenal. I mean, you talk about a guy like Parker Brailsford, who all we heard last year was he's too small to play in the SEC. Dare I say, he and Tyler Booker flip a coin for who was the best Alabama offensive lineman last year. Flip a coin. That was your undersized center who came into the SEC and not only looked the part, looked like a future first rounder. And it looks like he's gotten bigger too. Like that, this staff and their evaluations. Dejon Lee, what an evaluation. Brooks, what an evaluation. Noah Carter is a kid that he just has finally settled into one position. But you want to talk about upside and athleticism? Off the charts. Off the charts athleticism, only getting better every day. Well, that's a guy, you give him an inch, he's going to take a mile. The staff and their evaluations to me have just been phenomenal. Brinsky, talk to us about the evaluations. Talk to us about what you think Alabama's going to do in the portal. And here's a unique question for you, Brinsky. Do you see Alabama losing anybody in the portal that you're kind of worried about, right? We're not certainly putting a narrative out here that like, hey, Alabama's going to lose this guy, or just is there a certain group that you're like, please, man, just – trust the process. Stay on board.
Just to start off with that one, I'll say wide receiver because we just have so many, and all of them. I think we love the roster of wide receivers, how deep it is, how talented it is. I just see one of those guys leaving. I really don't know what Jalen Ibakwe fits on this wide receiver list. I know he's not going anywhere, but I just don't see him even getting on the field at all in front of any of these guys like Horton, Jeremy Bernard, of course, Ryan. Then Laciel Brooks is just showing out. Rico Scott. I'm like, where are you gonna fit in? Then Bubba Hampton. Then you got Cole coming back. It's so many guys on that wide receiver group. I expect at least one to leave. Secondary is pretty much a lot. Nobody needs to go anywhere. That is easily the strongest position in my eyes right now. When it was one of our weakest last year going into the season, but not during the season. But I just don't know right now. But I know one thing about this group of coaches, like we were just talking about their evaluation. I was saying the other night that look what they did everywhere they went. Clearly, they're good evaluators because they went to Washington and Fresno State, and look what they got out of those type players. Now they come to Alabama with all these resources, all this connections, and now they going into the state, meeting up with a lot of head coaches, a lot of trainers and all that. And we seeing how they're starting to produce when everybody was wondering, can they recruit the South? I wasn't worried at all, because clearly if you bringing in these type of athletes out of California who are just as good as the guys down south, I said it's only a matter of time before the in-state kids start to jump on that gravy train, and we see what's going on right now. So just the fact that we see the way they evaluate, man, it's top notch. I think it's the best in college football, especially Jamarcus Shepard, who is the best wide receiver coach in college football.
Yeah, he is on a short list, including that dude who every time an offensive coordinator position opens up, I just pray that guy leaves Ohio State to go take that job, because it's like, not only are you a great recruiter, you're a great wide receiver coach, you've got a brand behind you. Not even like, yes, Ohio State has money, but it's a brand. We talked earlier about the court of public opinion. There are a handful of schools out there that logo won't win you the battle, but it'll get you into a door that otherwise other schools have to do a lot more just to open that door. That Ohio State logo, like it or not, I know that Ohio State's contentious with a lot of SEC fans. That's a logo that opens a door. It just is. It just is. You give Heartline that logo, I mean, guys making magic up there. But Brinsky, I agree with you, man. I wouldn't trade Shepard for anybody. Coach Carl, before I introduce you to the panel, before I let you give your take on this, I do want to point out one thing. Brinsky, you talked about this. Coach Sean, we've talked about this. Clint, you brought this up. With the staff and evaluations, and you had tweeted something the other day, Clint, talking about how people had doubted. I know, Ebony. Part-time Ohio State fan as well, and we love you for it. We don't fault you for it. You're rolling with the tide. So it's all love. Breaks my heart, but, it is what it is. Speaking about recruiting ability, you had tweeted, Clint, something along the lines of like, oh, these people doubted the staff's ability to recruit. I want to remind everybody, certainly don't need to remind anybody on the panel, but just for Alabama fans to think about. Bama landed Dijon Lee after T-Rob left, went to Georgia. After Nick Saban was no longer the head coach. Already right then and there, that's about as good of a tandem recruiting defensive backs as you could ever hope for. T-Rob and Nick Saban, these kids wanted to play for Nick Saban because he is a defensive back guru, a legend at teaching defensive back play. It's known. He retires, T-Rob leaves. Clint, you'll remember this. There were articles the year before Saban had retired, that August before, that USC looked to be in good position for Dijon Lee. Now, I don't remember if any of those articles went as far as to say, hey, he's about to commit. More so that, hey, if we had to pick someone to be in the driver's seat, it's USC. So fast forward to whenever Lee is going to commit. T-Rob is at Georgia. Kirby Smart is at Georgia. And who else does Georgia hire other than Coach Williams, who is the primary recruiter for Dijon Lee at USC that was in the league? Within 1 year, this staff had surpassed the relationship that he had with T-Rob, while T-Rob was at Bama, with the relationship that he had with Coach Williams, who many people, many outlets out there said, hey, we're not saying he's about to commit. If we had to pick a leader, it would be USC and Coach Williams. Bama climbed that mountain, won the battle for this kid, and now we're hearing reports that good luck keeping him off the field. We might just have to make a new rule, Clint. I will draft it if you and these gentlemen up here will co-sign it to allow 12 men to play on the defensive side of the football just to get him in the game. He seems special. But it is a nod to something that, Clint, you talk about a lot. Brinsky, you talk about a lot. Coach Sean, you talk about a lot. Sometimes being underestimated, that's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
I don't know if y'all watch UFC. Volk won the belt this weekend. He got the mic and said adversity is a privilege. Hey, sometimes being underestimated, that's a beautiful thing. The staff's not underestimated anymore. Coach Carl, can you hear me? Let's see if we can get... Can you hear me, Coach Carl?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Coach Carl. How are you this evening?
I'm doing fine, man. About yourself. What's going on, broski?
Coach Carl.
Hey,
yes, sir.
Just another day. Wanted to get your take on the transfer portal as a whole. And then, guys, I want to talk about OU is doing some really interesting things in the transfer portal right now. And there's a name that OU fans know, but college football fans need to know that they have on that sideline that to me has been a major catalyst. But first, Coach Carl, I want to hear from you and your thoughts on the transfer portal.
The transfer portal, man, in my perspective, I think is actually hurting college football right now. And the reason why I say it's hurting college football is because they're making it so easy for kids to quit. It's nothing in between hard work and sacrifice nowadays for these kids. It's first time they see adversity, they're out. And then a lot of these kids, even though they're uber talented, you keep bouncing around from program to program. At the first sign of adversity, you never get a chance to actually reach your potential, or sometimes you get lost in the sauce. You get washed away. You have a lot of these 3 and 4 star kids, man, that once you get in that portal, you bounce this time. The next time you bounce the very next year. And the third time you bounce to try thinking that you're going to go to a better program, you may not get picked up. And it's just a waste of talent. And then you get a lot of bad information. You're okay, man, you super talented, so you rated such and such. And you jump in the portal, and then somebody offer you is less than what you thought you were. And then now you keep bouncing and bouncing and bouncing till you find the right dollar, but that right dollar may not be the right position for you, or might not be the right fit for you. Then you go ahead and you showcase your talent, and you showcase your talent in reverse. So the transfer portal is really, really affecting the development of players, the mindset of players. Now you got high school kids that haven't even reached that level. You got 9th graders that I done seen from other sport programs, and some kids in my program, some kids from other states that I done met and talked to. You got 9th graders thinking that, hey man, the NIL money in Georgia, I can transfer from this school, go to Georgia and get their little $10,000, and then they gonna make me better. But when you go to Georgia and they telling everybody the same thing, yeah, you the number 1 player in the state of Alabama, but so is the kid in California, so the kid in Texas, and they all going to the one school in Georgia. Now you get lost. So the NIL, the transfer portal, you keep bouncing from school to school. You're never gonna reach your potential unless you that uber talented kid. If you Dijon Lee and you come to Alabama and Alabama place you 6 on the depth chart, and you can't crack the field in no way, and everybody, like all of us, like you just said, Ty, everybody knows that you are this guy, you that dude, and you can't crack a position on that field, and it's not because you're not talented enough, it's just because they're holding you back, or somebody in front of you a little bit more talented, and you're not getting the opportunity. Okay, you jump in the transfer portal. That's a good reason to use the transfer portal. You know you talented, and you don't want to sit 3 years to get your shot. Then you try your first transfer. You go to this school, and then you become this big time player, superstar player. And now you think you're gonna move back to Alabama, or you want to move to Georgia. You may not move to Georgia and get that spot that you're thinking that you can get. You might move to Georgia and become cornerback 4 again, and now you battling for a position. You mad, so you want to transfer out, go somewhere else. Now nobody wants to put hands on you because you're not loyal. And a lot of these programs now are looking for loyalty. Loyalty over royalties. That's what I say a lot of time to kids. Go somewhere. If you commit there, you go there to that school for that school. Don't commit to a certain coach. Commit to that school. And if that school do you wrong, then you transfer out and you find you a new home. But don't be transferring, jumping in the portal just because somebody said you're gonna get 10,000. Somebody said you're gonna get 2 million, or somebody said I give you 4 million. And when you take your body, put it in the transfer portal, and now it's time to negotiate, they say your value. Well, I told you that in the beginning, but that ain't your value. I told you I'm gonna guarantee you a starting spot, but this other transfer guy decided to come too. And then it's competition. And you may lose that battle. So the transfer portal, man, it's a good thing. I say if they use it from junior to senior and transfer your freshman and sophomore year, if you commit to a program, your freshman and sophomore year, you got to ride it out. Your junior year, you hadn't touched the field and you decide to transfer, I can understand that. Senior year, you've been there in the program 3 years and don't get a chance to play, you could transfer out, or you've been there 4 years and graduate, you transfer. I can understand that situation. Personal situation, family emergency, you decide to transfer out, I can understand that. But just because you don't want to be at a school because another school offer you more money, that ain't good, man. That's gonna keep on hindering players, and they're gonna keep on affecting college programs. And eventually, man, college football gonna be way less exciting as it is now. Like right now, college football is the mecca of football. More people watch college football than they do NFL. Millions and millions of people love college football that don't even watch the NFL. They'll latch on to one player and they'll watch that player in the NFL and won't watch another NFL game. So college football is the mecca of football. You watch college football religiously. You see so many people got millions of podcasts right now talking about college football. You don't have that many people talking about NFL. So let's knuckle down and focus on the brand that it is, college football. Get some legislation in here that can help you keep this transfer portal, this NIL thing under control. And then let's get back to having our kid working, praying, wishing to make it to that spot where they can actually play college football for a team that they pick, love it, enjoy it, and then if things go sour, then you transfer. That's how I feel about that, Ty.
Listen, I don't think I disagree, and I got to be honest, guys. I'm not against the transfer portal. I'm certainly for NIL and compensation, but there's got to be a common sense way to do this. And I understand common sense ain't common, but every other league can do this. Ben G with the $10 says, great to see you, Ty. Hook 'em. Hey, great to see you too, Ben G. I know you're excited. Your Longhorns coming off of a great season, great recruiting class. I'd be excited too, man, if I was a Texas fan. Arch Manning there, you know how high I am on him. Clint, I don't know if you ever saw this, but whenever, I forget who it was, but it was somebody that used to work in the industry, was like, if his last name was Arch Hayes, he'd be a 3-star. I was like, no, I don't think that. Listen, I'm not saying you have to think he's the number 1 quarterback in the class. That's not my contention. Kid can play. Kid can play some football.
Well,
I'm excited for Arch.
And I agree with that. Here's the thing. I do think his last name helps him from a marketing standpoint. And I think that having who he has in his family has helped him too, in this sense. They've taught him winning habits. You know, if he didn't have those types of guys, some of the greatest to ever do it, teach him the proper way, I mean, it's possible that he would have been a 3-star talent. But I would say it goes beyond. I mean, if he wouldn't have to be a Manning, he could have just been close with the Manning family and got the same thing, you know? So it's, I did have a question though, because I think this is kind of sums up where we're at in college football with the transfer portal. Would it shock anybody? Think about where we are with Nico Iamaleava, what we just saw happen, what his clear plans were, which was, 3 and done. I actually think at this point, I wouldn't say it's more likely, but I would say I would probably put it at like 50-50 odds that he ends up back in the transfer portal a year from now, his chances of that happening are every bit as likely as him moving on a year early to go on to the NFL. And the fact that we're talking about that as a possibility, like this guy who has all these plans, he's trending in a certain direction, going to be a starter in year 2, major college football program like Tennessee. If you'd have told fans, hey, this guy's going to be your quarterback, you're going to make it to the college football playoff for the first time ever, they'd have been like, I mean, this guy had to have been incredible. He struggled. Still think he's got a lot of work to do, but now he's gone to a situation where he's got 4 months to learn a new offense. He's going to have significantly less talent. He's got this, I don't know how much all of this is going to affect his psyche, but you would think it, I mean, it is possible that it does. So it's like, I just think it's crazy based off of where he was as a player. I would have thought him coming out of high school. There's no way this guy's not in the NFL after 3 years playing in college. And I think at this point, it might be every bit as likely that he's finding a new school next year because everything fell apart over there too, as it is that he's moving on to the NFL and, going to be a first-round draft pick.
Gentlemen, open floor on that because I have my opinion, but I want to let y'all get your takes in.
For me, if it is true that he's going to UCLA, man, that's going to be tough, man. That's they're in the Big Ten now. Like Clint said, they have significantly less talent. I think it's a huge possibility that this kid goes back in the transfer portal because I don't know how that's going to go. Just for me personally,
Agreed.
I get it. Long Beach kid, West Coast kid, UCLA, Westwood is right. I get it, right? But I don't know how this is going to go, man. Those guys are in the Big Ten. Sure, they got some great coaches up there. They're better in all facets of the game. But playing that quarterback spot, new conference, very tough conference. I don't know how this. I would be hard pressed to see how this ends up. So I really do think that's true. I think this kid could end up in the portal again. Definitely.
Well, and the offense too. I mean, it's like he talks about the system and how it's different.
Yeah.
And that was a big reason he wanted to transfer, even though no one believes that.
Fact.
Okay, let's say that is true. How much more is that system going to require of you? Because that is I actually think that Tennessee's offense, in a lot of ways, it does put some of a quarterback skill set on display as far as the vertical shots and things like that. Nico wasn't very good at them, by the way. But there are elements of that offense that are that you can clearly see translate to the NFL. It puts your skill set on display. I also think in other ways it's kind of a gimmicky offense. There are some things that you're going to question. Yeah. But it's like, okay, you're no longer in that offense. You no longer get the gimmicky, what should be the kind of easy stuff. So how much is that offense going to require of you? And now you've got 4 months to learn it. So there's a flip side to all this that I don't know if he's necessarily been thinking about, mostly because I don't think it's been about the offense. It's been about the dollar signs. And not only did he fail on the system front, but I think he also failed on the dollar front too.
Yeah. Go ahead, Coach. My fault.
What I was gonna say, my bad, Brent. What I was gonna say is this, to piggyback on you, John. This is the issue with Nico, right? He says his offensive commanders or whatnot. What do Washington Redskins run? Is that same offense in Tennessee? It's just a little bit more pass. I mean, a little bit more pass scheme schematics wise, but they do everything vertical shot downfield, dinking and dunking on underneath, and a little bit of stuff across the middle. It's the same thing Washington Redskins do. It's the same thing that they doing out there in LA with the Chargers. They're doing it with the Rams. They're doing it. They tried to do it this year with the Raiders. Everybody going into that quick passing game, taking those deep vertical shots down the field. So he's saying that he's leaving the passing thing because of the offense doesn't fit his skill set. But then he must be trying to go to somewhere. You can't go to Lane Kiffin either. So I mean, on the other place you saw outside of UCLA, we're going to accept a quarterback that can't really hit that deep ball down the sideline is Bill Belichick in North Carolina, and his ass was too much for Bill Belichick. Most of the offense nowadays are predicated on that Tony Franklin system. Everybody want to run the quick outs and the deep shots down the field. Nobody doing that middle crossing game except more like the Eagles. Those run heavy offense to taking those play action pass shot across the middle. Those are the only teams that actually doing that. So for him transferring, talking about offense is the reason why he transferred, that's a lie. We all know it. It's all about the dollar. And he got a bad deal He should have stayed his ass in Tennessee with Josh Hyper with his wide open offense, got better at reading coverages, and put up 5,000 yards and been the #1 draft pick next year.
If I can say this real quick, Brinsky, before you give it to Brinsky, this is 5 seconds. To piggyback off that, man, remember at Tennessee, these guys stretch. They take up the entire field. That makes it easy for the quarterback to read offense, man. When you spread out everybody like that, that makes it significantly more easy than compacted. You know what I mean? And UCLA, I think they're a zone read team. UCLA zone read, a lot of gap scheme stuff. I remember. So he gonna have to pull the rabbit out of the hat. A lot of these games in the Big Ten, man, it's gonna be very interesting to see.
Yeah, they Tennessee's offense spreads you out for the purpose of actually running the football. It creates favorable matchups in the box, and they also they create a lot of one-on-one matchups on the outside, which is why they can kind of take those vertical shots. It really strains that nickel inside defender, puts him in conflict as far as because he's trying to he's got a lot of responsibility as far as covering. I mean, especially when it's a Jalen Hyatt type of player, but he's also got run responsibilities. You know, the Alabama star, and that's really what put Alabama. Everybody talks about the vertical shots now. You know, they completely torched Alabama's offense. It was because Nick Saban knew if he did some things to try to adjust to that, to try to take some of that away, all it was going to do, Tennessee can run the football. That is what this offense is really designed to do. All they would have done is just death by 1,000 cuts with that run game. Yeah. It is a favorable offense, and Coach is absolutely right. I mean, it's going to create easy reads for the quarterback. So he better get ready to make a lot tougher decisions. And when it comes to any vertical shot opportunities that he does get, he's got to hit them because in Tennessee's offense, he didn't.
Whole fact.
Yeah, man. He's going to have to come with it this year for real, especially. And I appreciate that too, Coach Carl, shouting out my team and my quarterback. We finally got one after all these years.
Redskins.
Yeah, man. But
my bad.
Man, stop it. But yeah, man. Especially when you see, you can tell he got a raw deal. Even it's being reported is a little bit upwards of $1 million. I'm like, man, you should just stay where you was and just try to learn the offense. And I think it was Ben G or somebody. No, Eric D in the comment said Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow in their second year in that system, they hit their stride. So this was gonna be like his third year, but as second year as a starter, you would have been a lot better than you got Mike Matthews out there who's going to be a lot better this year. So I don't know. It was definitely about the money because clearly there's nobody really out there in UCLA that's going to measure up to that talent in Tennessee's locker room. So good luck to you, brother, because if you don't step it up, like Clint said, man, you're going to be right there back in the portal because I don't see you coming out in the NFL draft next year.
Well, and here's the thing. This is why I'm so glad you all got to go, right? Clint, I was thinking about this last night, and it's so funny you asked this very question because as I'm sitting there, when I started talking about Nico, one of the things I said, and I've never hid this, he was my favorite quarterback in his class. And I always admitted to anybody who would ask, they're like, does that mean you think he's the best? And I'm like, I don't know if I'd say that. I think his ceiling is as high as anybody in this class. But I also think that he's the greenest, right? That's a term that I learned on the horse ranch. Whenever you'd break a horse, you'd say, hey, that horse, it's got a lot of potential. It's green, needs to learn, and needs to learn a lot. You might have some good things showing. That's just off of raw talent. Now let's get the form. Now let's get all these things. Nico was green. Last year, he was green. Clint, you hit the nail on the head. This is a guy that, Brinsky, to your point, and I believe you are right, it was Eric who said Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels. Nico needed to develop even if he stayed in the same place for 4 years. Right? Like, he needed to develop because his upside is there, but he just needs these reps. This is going to sound disrespectful. He is like a unbelievable 7-on-7 quarterback that needs to learn how to play at 11-on-11. Does that make sense? Right? Like that theory there where it's like he has been able to show off his exceptional athleticism, but now we need to get to the X's and O's. Coach Sean, you beat me to it. Clint, one of the things I was going to bring up, and Coach Sean beat me to it, he's coming from an offense that if you're a quarterback, it simplifies a lot for you. It's going to clear out space so that I, as the quarterback, have less adversity when I'm making my reads or read.
Read.
Read. What happens when now I'm asked as a growing boy, as a growing quarterback, to get the ball and now make a full field read? When all I've done is have an offense that puts so much strains on defense that the answer is given to me. You are now in a test that is not multiple choice, that has a reason your answer right here. And you came from a test that had 2 answer choices, and one of them was underlined, letting you know this is probably the right answer. What I mean when I say that, what does that nickel do? That lets you know, do I hand it off? Do I pass it? Tennessee's offense isolates that. It makes it easy for quarterbacks. Easy is a relative term, obviously. I'm not saying it's easy being a college quarterback, even though I'd be out there like Uncle Rico on his best days. But I just don't understand this move. And Clint, no, I don't think he's going to the NFL this year. I don't. Because now he has 4 years to relearn a system when he's already a guy that needs to develop anyways, and he's not going to have a system that gives him the answers. That's not going to be what he does at UCLA if UCLA is the place. I'm wishing the best for him because I am a fan of his. I want him to do well, but I'm fascinated, absolutely fascinated to see how this goes.
Well, he better hope that he can read too. That he can go through progressions, because we haven't really seen it yet. We don't know. I don't recall seeing it a ton on his high school tape, which isn't overly shocking. But it's kind of like, when Jalen Milroe ran the 40, he was fast, and everybody knew he was fast. But I will say, if you were going to run in the 4.4s, if you don't run in the 4.4s, if you just leave it up to everybody's imagination, we're all saying, I think you probably would have ran 4.3. To be honest with you, with some of the things you did on tape. And it's like the same thing. If he would have stayed in Tennessee's offense, he would have never had to have shown whether he could or couldn't go through his progressions and do the reads and all that stuff. And NFL evaluators would have questioned it, but it's like, if you leave it up to their own imagination, it's like, well, we don't know that he can't do it. So that would have been
reading.
Yeah. So, that's something that it's like, he better hope that he can, because otherwise that would have been the perfect offense to mask the fact that he's not great at that. Now, it will also give him an opportunity to get better at it, which I'm sure he will, but that is something that it's going to be a lot different. And it wasn't about the offense, but I hope that it works out, because he is going to be playing Big Ten defenses. That's one thing I'll give the Big Ten credit for. They got some pretty good defenses. Josh Rosen, sure, he was a first-round pick out of UCLA. He also had multiple offensive linemen. Colton Miller was a first-round pick, his left tackle. He had Connor McDermott. He had Scott Quisenberry. Like, he had some guys as far as protection up front. UCLA had a pretty good run there. Jordan Lashley at receiver, NFL receiver. So he had some weapons. I don't really know UCLA's roster probably as well as I should, but I don't think that they got a lot of that right now. And so he's going to have to, is he an elevator? Is he going to elevate the guys around him? Is he going to elevate that offense? Because he's going to be asked to do that. And I think last year it was a lot of Tennessee's success was Dylan Sampson kind of elevating the play of that offense and shouldering the workload, because Nico really couldn't handle a whole lot of it. So we'll see how he grows.
Clint, I want to stay with you here. Bama has gone through their spring. What position groups impressed you from what you heard? What position groups have you excited? And is there a position group that you have a worry about? And if worry is a strong word, a position group that you have a question about?
Yeah, that's, obviously the two that are going to jump as far as depth and excitement, wide receivers, defensive backs. Just the level of depth. Like, Alabama's had 4 first-round draft picks at the top of their wide receiver depth chart before. That's about as good as you can get. And I will say, if you could trade that group for this group, I'm sure they probably would, as good as this group is. But what I will say is I don't know that group back then or any group that Alabama has had that I can remember was this deep. I think you can get effective play running all the way down to 7, 8, potentially even 9. Like Derek Meadows is one where it's like I really liked how he looked, but I still think, could he be that like a Jai Hall where like he looks really good in the spring, but there's more development that needs to be done. Like he's the one that I kind of question still, but I mean, as far as where he's trending, I thought the route running was more advanced than I kind of thought that it would be at this point. He didn't look as raw as I thought he would. Defensive back, I mean, you run 3, 4 deep at safety, you run 2, 3 deep at Husky, you run 4 deep at corner, and I mean, get effective, quality, strong play, not just guys that you like, because even behind them, there's more guys that you like. I'm talking about proven impact players at really all three of, Husky, corner, and safety. I mean, it's 2 really good groups. The one that I'm most encouraged about, though, I would say, is the offensive line. And the reason being is, the way that I kind of envision it, I think, and I said this on our show, I kind of reiterate it here. I think if you can get 3 to 4 really good starters on your offensive line, and you can get 1 to 2 serviceable guys on your offense, you don't have to have 5 first-round draft picks or 5 day 1, day 2 draft picks on your offensive line. Some of the best offensive lines that Alabama has had guys who ended up going undrafted. One guy that goes undrafted or is a late-round pick or whatever. Everybody talks about some of those offensive lines, 5 or 6 years ago. It's like Deontay Brown was a 6th-round draft pick. He wasn't some super highly regarded guy, but it's getting, 3 to 4 really good starters, 1 to 2, depending, serviceable, good starters, because if you've got a good starter between 2 really good starters, he's going to, they're going to be completely fine. But then from there, in an ideal world, I think if you can get that kind of swing tackle, third tackle, it doesn't have to be a guy that necessarily plays both left and right, because you can always kick your, if it's hypothetically, if it's Wilkin Formby, your starting left tackle goes down, maybe it's Formby that kicks over to left and you bring in a guy on the right side. But it's having a third tackle that you can trust. It's having an interior guy that you can trust, which I think that's probably going to be Gino Vandermark. Experienced guy, can be serviceable, get the job done, can play, got the versatility to play all 3 interior spots. And then if you can get that guy that has that tackle guard versatility, then now you're running 8 deep with your offensive line, and you can withstand some injuries, whether it's short or long term. And I think that where Alabama's trending, probably, I think Olasunlenen's got probably that guard tackle versatility. I think Gino Vandermark's got the versatility and the impact to be that kind of 4th interior guy off the bench. And then, if they can get that third tackle, it could be Jackson Lloyd. Maybe it ends up being Olasunlenen. Maybe he's that guy too, and maybe they got 7. And then if they got to work to Jackson Lloyd, it could always look a little different. But I think Alabama is trending in the right direction with its offensive line. The only thing that worries me about with that group is that we've felt like it was going to be good the last several years. And so we've been very wrong. And I'm one of those that tries to learn from my mistakes. But I will say, I think naturally, Kalen DeBoer's offense protects the offensive line. I think that's going to be the case this year. I think the way that they strain defenses with a versatile run game, as far as creating spacing, as far as creating, the defensive line can't be as aggressive or as penetrative with the way that they like to throw a lot of different things at them. I think that's going to help. I think the quick passing game is going to be a massive part of it. The screen game, working a lot of that stuff in it. They got guys that can create yardage after the catch. I think they're going to have the ability to stay on schedule more this year, to leave the entire playbook open. I don't think you're going to look at those 3rd and long situations quite as often as you did last year, which the offensive line really wasn't set up for that. So it's like, I look at this offensive line and I say, for a lot of reasons, I'm really encouraged about where that position could be. And that was the main one that I was worried about. Tight end is a question mark, just because I was hoping we could see Danny Lewis. And if I could have seen him kind of working as that starter, going against, Alabama's starting defense and stuff, even though I guess it was just one practice, it was limited, to know he's continued to grow and he can handle those Y responsibilities. I was hoping to see that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to. Obviously, Cuevas gets hurt, but we know enough about him. He's going to be a dude. We like some of the depth options that they have, but I would say tight end's probably my biggest question mark. Feel pretty good about the kicking job. The punting, question it. But outside of those two and just getting guys healthy, maybe at off-ball linebacker and stuff, kind of shore up your depth there, or at least the top of your depth chart to move those guys down. I think they got a national championship caliber roster. I really do. And I really believe in this coaching staff as well.
I love it. That's probably been my biggest question, has been offensive line. And to your point, Clint, I think last year was definitely an improvement, but Bama hasn't had just what I would consider a Bama offensive line since like 2020. Right? It's been a while where whenever you look at this, the offensive line has left a lot to be desired. And hopefully this is the year that we start to see Bama's offensive line look more like Bama's offensive line. Love Coach Cap. Love what he's been doing there. Having Grubb back with the experience as an offensive line coach, I hope that works well, right? Their dynamic of being able to work together, get a cohesive game plan. I think it would. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, but fascinating to see. Brinsky, talk to me, man. Talk to me about what position group are you most excited about? What position group worries you?
Well, we already know, man. The secondary I love the most, man. That's my favorite. Bias for obvious reason. Damani Jackson coming back was probably one of the most important things this offseason. Xavier gets another year of development. We're not rushing to start Dejon Lee because I felt like if Damani didn't come back, Dejon would have been starting at some point. And clearly, from everything we're hearing in camp, that's a real big possibility that would have happened. Cam Calhoun is just a dog from everything that we've been seeing from all the video footage that we've been getting. Shout out to the guys at Touchdown Alabama, from Clinton, all those guys out there. Of course, I'm very, very high on Xavier Mincy. I've been speaking the same way about this. I really believe he should start over Sav. I don't know, man. I just like Mincy more over Sav for some odd reason. Even though he before injury, I think him moving to safety was like the best thing that could have ever happened to him. I think he's the next great safety at Alabama. Bray Hubbard is that guy. I think he's the smartest guy on the defense. Very, very intelligent, high football IQ. So, yeah, the secondary is definitely my favorite. One that concerns me, I would say I'm trying to decide between linebackers and D-line. Linebackers, I'd say D-line just because of depth. Just want to see those guys develop more. Hopefully, James Smith has a breakout year. Been high on him since high school and actually got to see him play. Shout out to Carver High School in Montgomery. I expect Quay Rusaw to have a great year too. Tim Keaton, I need him to play like how he was playing at the beginning of the year last year, because I thought he was going to have a Quentin Williams type season the way he started off the season. He was playing like complete monster, and then he got hurt, then he slowed down. I just need to see how the D-line going to play, and we really probably need to get somebody in the transfer portal just for depth. Tight end is kind of questionable too. I don't think we have a guy that we can all just say he's going to be our guy. We can question it. It's not like I wish we had a Harold Fannin or Tyler Warren in this group, but we don't. So, and it's not those type of guys in the transfer portal. We'll just get somebody, but we'll see.
Love it, Coach Sean.
You already know what position I'm most excited to see. I'm biased. I will admit it. I want to see the running backs, man. I want to see the running backs. I want to see Jam Miller. I want to see Richard Young. I want to see Dre Washington. I want to see Daniel Hill. I want to see, you know, the freshmen these guys got. I want to see all these guys. I want to see all of them. I need to see these guys, and more importantly, I need to see these guys in a simplified base, some type of the complexity of their run game. I want to know, is the run game still going to be counter? Are they going to still run counter? Because that pinning and pulling last year several times didn't really work well for us, man. Lineman was very slow coming across the formation. It didn't really work well for us, man. When these guys were at Washington at their peak, they had a lot of athletic offensive linemen. These guys ran counter with their guards. They ran counter with their tight ends. They ran counter with their tight end, man. I promise you they did. The tight end would peel back. It was amazing. You know, tackles, guards, tight ends. I even seen, believe it or not, I seen them run trap. I seen them run Parker Brailsford would hike the ball and pull right from the center spot. So these guys ran a lot of screen action, a lot of different things they done was based off that run game and the complexity of it. So I'm really, really, really excited to see these guys in the run game and see how it works, man, because I got so frustrated last year. And not for me, it wasn't necessarily, I say this all the time, and I hope people understand what I'm saying. It wasn't Nick Sheridan's play calling that frustrated me. It was it was when we ran certain stuff, you know. The down and distance a lot of times to me didn't match what we done in certain games. On third and short, why are we running deep digs? You know what I mean? We can't block. You know, I never understood that. Jalen was under, you know, I've never understood the complexity of that because, you know, the offensive line was having problems. I just didn't understand, but I understand being sometimes when you're the offensive coordinator, sometimes the game swallows you up, man. You know, sometimes when the game is going, you end up calling a play that you really didn't want to call, right? And just crossing your fingers. I promise you, it happens to us all. So my thing is, I want to see more logical play calling on third down. First down and third down for me, man. That tells me everything I want to know about the identity of your football team. It tells me what what you like to do. It tells me really what type of football team you have in crunch time. So the running back and the run game for me is very, very what I want to see more than anything. I can't lie. If I had a concern, to me, it's the engine to the car, which is the offensive line. Quarterback and offensive line to me is, you know, not necessarily a concern, but I know it with this offense. If the offensive line does not have a great, you know, year, we will struggle on offense again. Jalen Milroe's legs saved us a lot of times last year, and got us in trouble some last year. So for me, it's the offensive line is my concern. I want to know how these guys play well. Is the chemistry there? Have they adapted to this system more? How will the new quarterback come in and his skill set match with the offensive coordinator? What I do like about Grubb is, you know, I think this offensive coordinator will be in the offensive line coach's face. You know, most of the coordinators, they're at every position. You know, they're coaching, if you will. I think Grubb is that kind of guy. From what I'm reading, he's a no-nonsense guy. He doesn't mind getting at you a little bit. I'm really excited for that. I think we need that. So I'm just excited, man, for the offense. I'm really, really, really I don't have a lot of worries about the defense for some reason. I feel really good about the defense. I really do. This is the best I felt about a defense in a couple of years. It really is. I like the amount of experience we have coming back on that side of the ball. So I don't really worry too much about it. You know, I know Brinsky he loves Bray. Brinsky been on Bray for a while, just as long as Ty been on Latsier. I'm a little different with Bray. I don't want to see Bray in one-on-one situations out there. I know he'll knock your head off. You know, but I don't want to see him out there on the hash trying to, you know, I don't want to see him in single coverage against nobody, right? No disrespect to Bray, love him to death, right? I think with this vision coverage defense, they'll cover that up and mask those things very well. But my biggest wants and urges and excitement lie with the offensive side of the ball. I'm really excited for the quarterback, really excited to see how they use the quarterback, and hopefully the offensive line play well. I'm for Wilkin Formby, who's gradually becoming my favorite player on the team. I love the development this kid has done from that game where Wilkin had to come in for Elijah. I think Wilkin has turned the corner. He's more physical. His feet don't seem to be stuck in the mud as much. I think that young man understands what he's doing. I think he understands leverage and how not to get over his skis, if you know what I will, Clint. Not to get out over your skis and
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not to
Those-
lunge. When offensive linemen get tired, boy, they lunge. That's a high school trait. You know, when you're bigger than everybody, that works. Not in the SEC, right? So I love Wilkin Foreman to death. He's becoming my favorite player on the team, and I think Wilkin's gonna have a hell of a year, and I think our offense will have a hell of a year as well.
Y'all did a great job. I'm going to keep mine very brief. What I'm most excited about, wide receiver. Clint, you kind of hinted at this, that you don't know that a Bama fan would trade for that iconic wide receiver group.
Facts.
But just the 1 through 8, it might be deeper than the iconic Bama football wide receiver room. Not better, but just the depth there is insane. Brinsky, Coach Sean, you guys know how long I've been excited about Brooks.
Yeah.
I just think that kid is unbelievable. He has one of those highlight tape guys. Whenever you watch it, you kind of stop watching it at 1 minute and 30 seconds, 2 minutes in, and just start laughing because you're like, this is silly. Like, this isn't even it's transcended impressive to where it's silly. Derrick Henry, his high school tape was silly. Reuben Foster, his high school tape was silly. We have transcended great play into, how are y'all letting this happen? Is nobody, I thought we were supposed to care about the children, and y'all are letting Reuben Foster out here murder kids. I know I must have missed the memo, but that's kind of how I felt about Latsier. It's like, hey, I thought we were supposed to care about the children. He's over here burning them like they don't have a chance. Well, let's go ahead and give him his medal and say, go on ahead, bud, go to college football, because we don't have an answer for you. So wide receiver, I'm very excited about it. Ryan Williams, Isaiah Horton, phenomenal. Get Jalen Hale coming back. I feel like he's a name that gets lost into the fold because of all of the talent Alabama has. But ladies and gentlemen, let's not forget what he did as a true freshman. What we saw as a true freshman, had that horrific injury, has only worked his way back. Really excited about him. Rico Scott, Derek Meadows. What a room. What a phenomenal room. Slotty Pippen, Cole Adams still out there, right? So
I like
love what we have there. Lisa Rawls with the $10. Thank you very much, saying puzzle pieces all coming together on both sides of the ball in all position groups. Bama will be elite if quarterback play is solid, including from a leadership confidence standpoint. Elite panel, roll tide. Thank you, Lisa. This is always a blessing to be able to just talk football with Brinsky, with Coach Sean, and certainly Clint giving us the time. Lisa, you followed our content. You know how much Brinsky, Coach Sean, and myself, we think about Clint's analysis. If you follow my Twitter, it's probably my most retweeted person on Twitter, because I really think you're not going to get better analysis, and certainly not from Alabama. Like, there's a reason why I've told Clint the last time he was on here, hey, I'd like to make this as regular of a thing as you can afford, because I just think that you do a great job, man. So thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you, Clint, for giving us the time, and thank you all for watching. I always say, Clint, the two most valuable things people have in life is time and health, and it's not lost on me that people are giving us their time this evening to just hang out and talk football, and I'll never be able to eloquate how much that means to me. What I'm most concerned about, I'm going to cheat, but it's my show, so I can do what I want. It's not a position group. It's more of a result. I need more. Did you miss us? Auburn doomed forever. As long as you're still doomed, I'll always have fond memories of you. Auburn doomed forever. Always have fond memories of you. Yeah, I did miss you all, though. I really did miss you all. I'm going to cheat. As long as Bama can get more pressure on quarterbacks consistently and get the damn quarterback on the ground. And I know sacks can be an overrated metric, but you also know what sacks are. It's a negative play. It's a play where they didn't get positive yards. They didn't throw a touchdown. They didn't get a first down. I'll take it. Bama had as few of sacks last year as I can remember. Now, they had some pressures. LT Overton certainly had a lot of them, but I need to convert that. I need to convert close to getting home. Guys, Bama's secondary was top 10 in the nation, and their pressure numbers and sack numbers were nowhere near what we're used to. If we get double the sacks we had last year with this secondary, oh boy, it's going to be a fun year. So that's what I need to see. Trojan Fight coming out and saying, whoa, a tie sighting. Good to see you, man. Trojan Fight, happy to see you as well. And I know you're excited because your Trojans have been doing some great things on the recruiting trail. Excited to see how they're able to continue that momentum, keep it going, and what comes next. Clint, we've been going for an hour and 20, and certainly I appreciate your time. I don't want to hold you hostage here, but there is one more topic that I want to get to this evening, and that's OU making some great moves in the portal. They get Jaden Otts. They get an offensive lineman. They got John Mateer, right? Like, if you watched Washington State this year, if you were watching this channel, you heard us talk about Washington State. You heard us talk about this offensive coordinator. You heard us talk about this quarterback. Kid's fun. Kid's electric, man. Like, I'm hyped that he's in the SEC. Absolutely hyped that he's in the SEC. But OU's making some great moves in the transfer portal. They needed more running back depth. They go and get Ott. The offensive line was a question last year. Even though you have an answer for a coach in Bill Bedenbaugh, you go and get more answers. Clint, one of the things that I saw, and I believe I made a video about it, but at the same time, I can't remember. I've been so busy. OU hires Jim Nagy to kind of run that front office. And when I saw that move, I remember I was at work when I saw it, and I just kind of leaned back and said, whoa, that's a move. You being in the industry, you being such a professional, and Brinsky, I want to hear you on this too, because you were just at the Senior Bowl. Talk about what that means. OU getting a guy like Jim Nagy. Certainly Bama has Courtney Morgan, who is as good of a GM as you could ever hope for. But I really thought OU did a great job as college football is going more towards an NFL model, getting a guy that's worked in the NFL, getting a guy that was just at the Senior Bowl. Talk to us about Jim Nagy.
Ton of respect for him. Ton of respect for what he does. Here's the thing. You can go in kind of different directions. I don't know what kind of talent evaluator Courtney Morgan is. He might be a really good one. I know he can recruit. You know, I know he's got that side of it. He's probably one of Alabama's best recruiters. And so even if it's kind of aiming people in the right direction and then sending them that way, as long as you're getting that talent evaluation somewhere, and he very well could have a huge hand in that. I've never really looked into that as far as his role and things like that. But Alabama's clearly doing a great job as far as their talent evaluation. They're doing a great job of going out and recruiting that talent. And the other element is they're developing that talent. That is such an underrated part of this. They're going out, they're getting 5 stars. They're developing them. You know, they're getting highly rated 4 stars. They're developing them. They're seeking guys out of the transfer portal. They're coming in. They're making an impact. They're developing them. With Jim, he's got the talent evaluation side of it to a point where at the very least, he might not be the best recruiter. You know, I don't know what his background is with that. He might not be a Courtney Morgan type, but that's what your coaching staff's for anyways. So just point him in the right direction and send him that way. But I don't think it's a coincidence. Now, granted, some of this, it's like, okay, Mateer, I mean, who's not going after that guy, right? Ott was one of the best running backs available in the transfer portal. Who's not going after that guy? But I think it'll be some of these guys that we're really not talking about a ton right now that we'll be talking about at some point if in October or November and saying, man, that was a great get. We probably underestimated that signing at the time. That ended up being a huge piece for their offensive line, or that ended up being a huge piece for their defensive line. But I trust what the coordinators or the play callers on both sides of the football. I think, you know, when you're talking about that aspect of it, the game planning, like what they did against Alabama last year, I mean, it's just going into Norman and dealing with that. You know, you've got talent, you've got a play caller, you've got the environment. That makes everything Alabama was trying to do so difficult. And so with Brent Venables and kind of what he does, you know, I think they have that aspect of it. So I think they still need a lot of help. I don't think they're really close to being done here, but I think you couldn't, if you're an Oklahoma fan, I don't think you really could have asked for too much more than they're doing right now. And I think that this is a program that can what is there? I mean, I want to say Vegas right now has them at like 6.5 wins is the the win total. I mean, just to me, now granted, I don't have their schedule sitting in front of me, so I don't know what that looks like. But I will say I feel like that's one of the ones that they probably need to take the over on that because just with what they're doing, and I believe in the coaching staff's ability to develop it. So they're getting the right talent, in my opinion, and I think they'll be able to turn that talent into impactful guys on the field. And I think that'll end up making a huge impact. So very impressed with what they've been able to do so far this offseason. And I think Oklahoma being good, that's good for the SEC.
Absolutely, it's good for the SEC. Oklahoma is one of those schools when they're good, it's good for college football. When Bama's good, it's good for college football. OU fans, close your ears. I know we have a great relationship right now, but okay, they're all closed. When USC is good, it's good for college football. You're good to open your ears again. That's just the type of program OU is. And Clint, I think you hit the nail on the head. They have an evaluator, and they have several guys on this staff that I think are great evaluators. I think Bill Bedenbaugh. I make a lot of OU content, Clint, and you would be shocked. Actually, you wouldn't. You know this industry. You know fans. That's why we love them, because fans, I'm a fan. I'm irrational. I can't tell you how many. Now, granted, not many of them are in this chat. How many of them have been like, we want to get rid of Bill Bedenbaugh because we're not landing 5 stars? And my thing has always been, the hell does it matter, man? You're pumping out first-round offensive linemen that are resetting the market every other year. Like, what more do you want? If he can find a 4-star that's going to work as well as anybody's 5-star, what does it matter? But they were there. They were like, no, we need him gone. I'm like, hey, you fire him. I'll be the first to say, hey, sir, I'll drive you to Tuscaloosa for an interview. This is before they got Coach Cap. Very happy with what Coach Cap's been able to do. But you get the point. Love what they did with Jim Nagy. Love the moves they've made. I would probably hit the over as well, though they do have a very difficult schedule. I think the defense is going to be really, really good. You lose Danny Stutzman, but that is a deep, deep, deep linebacker room. Kip Lewis was a guy who I thought last year, as good as Danny Stutzman was, I think that he is even more athletic than Danny Stutzman. He just doesn't have the experience Danny Stutzman has. And I'm not saying he's going to be better than Stutz, but I'm saying if you're going to lose a Danny Stutzman, you feel damn good that you have a Kip Lewis right behind him, right?
How are they looking at safety? Billy Bowman, I thought from like a tackling standpoint, kind of a liability at times actually, but from a coverage standpoint, being a ball hawk back there, I mean, I think he was one of the better safeties in college football when it comes to that.
Facts.
So that was the one to me. I agree with you. I'm a lot more familiar with their linebacker room, and you might not know as far as the third level, but that's one that I look around college football and I say, okay, who are some underrated losses for maybe SEC teams? Billy Bowman was a player that I really liked watching last year in preparation for them, playing Alabama, and I just don't know what they have to replace him.
So the guy that comes to mind is Robert Spears Jennings. I think now, will he be able to replace Billy Bowman? Tough to do, right? I agree with you, man. Billy Bowman in coverage was so much fun to watch. Just so much fun to watch. They've got some defensive backs. I do think
You going
that's the
T-Pain
area
on
where on this year. Oh, am I? Is it
No,
better
you
now?
good now. You good now.
I almost wrote a single right then and there talking about y'all want in on the royalties. I am not a proud man. Okay. Boganowski Boomer says, yeah, I've talked to his dad. Great dude. Mike Boganowski, great dude. The one area I want to see OU improve on defensively is that secondary. And even then, I feel like that's a little unfair whenever Gentry Williams got hurt, Kendall Dolby got hurt.
T-Pain again.
I mean, they had a CVS receipt of injuries last year. So as much as I'm like, hey, I want to. Okay, we're back. I don't know what's going on.
It's Texas fans. Texas fans, they don't like that you're saying too many good things about Oklahoma. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, that is the area, though, where it's like, hey, I think you've got the talent there, but that was where you were weak at last year. in my opinion, defensively. And weak is a relative term. You had a good defense, but like if there was an area you could be picked on, it was if we can hold up on the front seven and keep your blitz at bay, we can get the ball over the top. I think a lot of that was because of the injuries they had, but that is an area where I do want to see them improve. Brinsky, I want to get to you now because you were at the Senior Bowl and you were impressed with everything you saw. What was your first thoughts when you saw Jim Nagy to OU?
I didn't know how big of a deal he was when I was down there, probably till the second to the last day, and realized how big of a big deal he was. And I was like, oh, wow, this guy is really like that for real. And took a picture with him and all that. Very nice man. Very, very nice man for real. But OU got a guy for real. And I'm mad that they got him because he is really that good. And you can tell how everybody in the industry congratulated him, how big of a deal that was. So, OU got somebody very, very good. And also shout out to Billy Bowman Jr. for giving me a drop too.
Very cool.
I saw that. Love that. Stink ass cat with the $50. Thank you, stink ass cat. Boomer Sooner. Best wishes to all of you in Bama football this year. We've really cultivated something over here, Clint, where it's like Crimson respect Crimson. Right? I don't know if you've seen this, but so many of the OU fans have been like, hey, we wish you luck this year. And we've got this mutual understanding until game day. Then all bets are off. But then even after that, it's right back to that respect.
I feel like that goes back to when Franchione left, in the middle of the night for Texas A&M, and Alabama had played Oklahoma respectable. I think Oklahoma was like number one or maybe number one. It might have been number two, but gave them a really good game. And then they ended up beating the hell out of Texas A&M.
Just demolishing them.
And I think that if I recall correctly, I was really young, but I want to say they played Alabama's fight song or something to give Alabama a shout out. Ever since then, I've had a lot of respect for Oklahoma.
Yeah, this is a safe space, right? This is a safe space, guys. And also, Clint, to answer your question, I kind of messed up. Peyton Bowen was the number 2 rated safety in the class, where Caleb Downs was the number 1 rated safety. Kid out of Denton Geyer, right? Or was it Ryan? Oh boy, I can't remember. And I'm in Denton. Denton produces too many talented kids, guys. Don't hold my feet to the fire. This is an insane area. This North Texas region I'm in is just like throw a rock, you're going to hit a 5-star. Peyton Bowen, though, Geyer. It was Geyer. I thought it was Geyer. But then Stevie, I sat here and I was like, I think it's Geyer because I remember the black helmet. But then I was like, hey, but it also could be Ryan. I mean, every time I turn around, Ryan's sending half the school to D1 college football. I think their cheerleaders got a scholarship to play on Texas A&M, but, they turned it down. They didn't want to be involved with the cult. Coach Sean, talk to me about Jim Nagy.
Yeah, Jim is awesome. I mean, this guy's a vet. I mean, Jim has been doing this stuff a long time. He's seen a lot of talent come through there. This guy knows the ins and outs of player development, what these guys want, what these guys need. Jim is awesome. I think Oklahoma did an outstanding job by getting him. When you look at even the future kids, I was excited by the kid I looked at a while back. I think his name was Zachary Turner, if I'm not mistaken. Kid was out of Duncanville, and the kid was playing receiver and tight end. I'm not sure which one Oklahoma's recruiting him as, but very talented kid. Very, very talented kid right there out of Duncanville, man. And I think he had Oklahoma as his leader. So these guys are doing great things. And Jim is finding these jewels. He's finding these kids that again fit their system. And you can never count out Brent Venables, man. I'm a big Brent Venables fan. It may have been because how he played us all those years at Clemson. Their defense gave us a lot of problems. And when you think about all the injuries these guys had, it was exceptionally easy to see why these guys lost a lot of games. Their offense didn't do them any help. The defense kept them in practically every game they played. You add Jim Nagy to that mix, you add his expertise, and college athletes and what this guy loves to do, I think Oklahoma's destined for greatness in the future. They're getting the pot ready to make a run at this thing. I just hope it's not in Tuscaloosa. But yeah, I really love what these guys are doing, man. I really love that recruit I looked up. That's one kid that I watched this film and I was very impressed by this young man. Wish we could get him at Bama, but I think he had Oklahoma as his #1 school. And so you have to give this guy all the flowers, man. A veteran in this thing. They did a great job by getting him. And I think the sky's the limit for Oklahoma.
The other thing I want to point out real quick too is the relationships that he's built on the NFL level through what he was doing before. So it's like, I mean, he's a trusted voice. You know, that was one of the things with like Nick Saban was like all this built into one. But, you know, when NFL evaluators and NFL decision makers, when they go to Jim, just like when they would go to Nick, they'd ask his opinion on a guy. They know they would get honest evaluation. They get quality evaluation. So he's like a trusted guy, and he's just got connections all over the place. Thanks. So that I think from a recruiting standpoint, I mean, obviously NIL plays a major factor, but any sort of little advantage that you can give yourself on that front, I only think that it helps.
I completely agree. Coach Sean, Clint, y'all, and Brinsky, you all hit the nail on the head there. What he gives them, it's going to be really interesting to watch. OU was very hurt last year. You get a new offensive coordinator. And listen, I'll be very honest. OU fans, some of you weren't happy with me when I said at the beginning of last season, I was on a podcast with Sooner legend and Oni Kuno, and I said, I'm not sold with your offensive coordinator hire, Seth Luttrell. Said, I'm not sold. And people asked why. He has a successful history. I said, because I'm a UNT student. I watched it, and it hurt. It hurt me. And listen, if you look at the wins and losses, Clint, when he was at UNT, a lot of people in the community were surprised when he was fired. And that kind of told me you weren't watching the games. You would win, but holy hell, I walked out of a UNT game in the third quarter because it was the sloppiest football I'd ever seen. And it was bad because I had someone drive from San Antonio to Denton to watch the game with me. We walked out. It was the sloppiest football I'd seen. Now, they won, but it was not pretty. And it just kind of felt like this past year offensively, there was no feel for the game. There was no feeling out of the game. Coach Sean, you love when I use this phrase. It's one of the few good things I've done. There was no foundational play calling. Nothing play calling. Build upon.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for earlier, you know.
Yep. Play calling's like building a house. You have to have that foundation. Once you establish the foundation, we can build upon the foundation. If you don't have that, you're building in a swamp. Good luck. They have that, right? And then they have a quarterback. I do have spectrum, Eric. Damn it.
The fact that he called it makes it so much worse.
I know. Damn it all. I do. As a matter of fact, I do have spectrum. You know what? I'm gonna go sit in the corner after this. I don't know what else to say, gentlemen. It has been an absolute pleasure. Clint, I want to start with you. Where are you doing your content at right now? Where do the people need to be looking out for? And thank you so much for giving us the time this evening, man. I really can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Yeah, this has been great. I just, you know, I talk so much Alabama. Sometimes it's nice to touch on some Alabama, but also, you know, college football kind of in general. So this has been fun. CoverCrimson.com. Got a great message board community that we're building over there. Cover Crimson YouTube channel. That's where all of our video content is. And then you can also find me on Twitter at Clint R. Lamb. So just whichever way you want to digest the content, I just appreciate it. I appreciate all the support. And once again, I appreciate y'all having me on.
Of course, man. Of course. Like I told you last time, as much time as you can give, I'd love to have you on more, because not only do I think that you are as good as it gets in the industry, I think that you are exceptional on the microphone, and especially in these sort of round table situations where the goal of my show was always to feel like we were all out at lunch talking about college football. And I think that you're exceptional in that environment with exceptional analysis. And that's why it's always such a pleasure to have you on. And anytime you want to come on, anytime you can, you have a permanent seat at the table, my friend. Brinsky, talk to me, man. Where can the people find all your great content?
Oh, at the Sharpshooters podcast, man, I don't even have a designated night anymore because just picked it up, ramped it up even more. Just catch me over there on the Sharpshooters podcast, almost at 800 subscribers. So going over there and get us to the 800 mark. Definitely catch me on Twitter at B_sharp. Check out the TikTok. It's been going up at the Sharpshooters podcast. And also shout out to Utah always, Coach Sean, my guy, the most underrated guy in the business. The most underrated guy in the business. I had to say that twice because you really be doing your thing, man. And Clint, of course, man. I always mention that you three with you, Justin Smith, and Andrew Bone, three of my favorite in the business, man. I love everything that you do, brother. And glad to just know you.
Thank you so much, man. That means a lot. I will say that I love hopping on your stuff. I listen all the time. It's anytime someone has the ability to hop on and it's like you can carry the conversation, but it's like he was just talking about. It feels more water cooler, just hanging out with your friends. And it's like there's times y'all are having conversations, and I find myself, answering you guys, when y'all be talking about something. That's anytime I'm doing that and I feel that entertainment, I always enjoy watching it, man. So I always enjoy hopping on your show.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And the one, the only, hates running backs notoriously, Coach Sean.
Man, I appreciate it, Ty. Much love to my brother Ty, who always giving us opportunity to talk some football, man. Always grateful to him forever and a day. You know what I mean? Much love to Clint, who I've always watched, listened, learned from these guys. Hadn't been doing content by myself very long. Really, really, really enjoy your content, Clint, man. You do a hell of a job over there, bro. And my brother Brinsky, man. My brother Brinsky, always coming through, man. And Brinsky's doing this, anytime I see him, I'm tapping on it, man. Really appreciate him always, man. You guys can find me at Just My Humble Opinion. That's all it is. JMHO Sports Talk on Twitter and YouTube. Shout out to Coach Carl, Coach Jay, Coach Al, Piano Man, all the great guys on the panel. Shout out to KB. Shout out to Jimmy and Luke. Go check those guys out. Mick Gillespie, check him out with Clint. These guys always do awesome work. Justin Smith, all these guys way off sides. There's so many guys that I watch that do a great job. Bama Standard, all the guys at Bama Standard, man, these guys do a great job, who I appreciate. Always about Alabama, man. That's what I really, really appreciate. And I learn from all these guys, bro. And much love to all them. And I appreciate Ty, and roll tide to you all.
Roll tide, my man. Clint, you might have to see, as everybody in their little headers, you have Coach Sean, JMHO Sports, you have Clint Lamb, analyst, Crimson cover Crimson. I'm dyslexic, I apologize. And Brinsky at the Sharpshooters podcast. And then you have mine, keeper of Blaze and the disappointer of Grandalf. Now, I don't know if you know the lore, Clint.
I don't.
Clint.
I don't.
There's sometimes, right before I'm set to go live, this cantankerous fellow with a beautiful head of hair will knock me upside the head, and I'll wake up an hour or 2 hours later in the backyard. And I haven't gotten to do my show because Blaze has came and taken my place. And I can't be held responsible for what Blaze says, though I have had to free him from the Guatemalan embassy on at least 4 occasions. And Grandalf, last year, you remember the transfer portal was supposed to be incredible. It was supposed to be unbelievable during the spring window. I couldn't dress up as Gandalf and go on live stream because you'd be shocked how stingy they are with those documentaries, man. Like they do not want you to use his name, image, and likeness, his NIL from those documentaries. So I, being resourceful, became Grandalf, transfer portal wizard, and I came on here dressed like a wizard. Now, my hat kept falling over, and so I tried to get a Cialis sponsorship because I was like, hey, Cialis, if you can help with the hat, we'll be good to go. They didn't bite, but, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and I miss 100% of the ones I do take, but you got to take them. You got to take them. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to hear from the 5th member of the panel, And that's the spinning wheel of doom. Thank you very much for giving us your time this evening. It means the world. And it spins.